Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today I would like to share with you all my final thoughts on the premium Citivian model ST995. Now I have at least handled one other premium Citivian and it basically just knocked my socks off. It was excellent. There were a couple little design things that I was a tad bit nitpicky about, and that's why it's no longer in the collection. But this thing's cool, and honestly it's here to stay for a good bit probably. I don't see this moving anytime soon because it is of incredible value. I have not used this a whole lot, mainly because I've just been gravitating towards other designs in my collection, but this still has a place, definitely. This is going to be a little bit more on the urban EDC and gentlemanly carry side of design language for a lot of the stuff that I have in my collection. A lot of the stuff that I have is very modern utilitarian. I don't have a lot of super high-end stuff. I don't have a lot of like overbuilt and rugged and just like complete like beater knives. My collection's I would say relatively consistent. There's a theme to majority of it. Everything is very capable and useful and holds a lot of value for what it cost me in the end. This, like I said before, it has a place definitely in this collection. A lot of good to talk about here, little to no negatives. A couple of course I had to figure something out to talk shit about, but there's a lot of good here, and I'm really happy to have been able to check it out. I got this variation off of Amazon. I'll be linking it down below so you guys can go check it out and pick it up if you're interested, of course. During the recording of this video, there's actually a apply 10% coupon that you could go and click on and apply. This variation that you see in front of you, it is the Bead Blast titanium bolsters with shred carbon fiber scales. So those are the materials. That one is $79.99. This is $80. This is awesome. This is really good for what this thing feels like, let alone what it looks like. But for what this thing feels like, anyone else making this would charge a minimum of double. $200 of a minimum is what they would charge for making this exact same freaking knife. So how Citivian is doing it, I don't freaking know, and I don't really care. But I'm glad that it exists, and I'm able to share this with you guys to tell you that there's a lot of value in this. At least I find a lot of value in it, and it's pretty darn cool. So there are a couple other color variations. There are like a Damascus, but they're really funky looking, and they have like Damascus blade, and it's just you guys can go look at it. But this is the most attractive looking one. That's going to be very subjective, of course, but this is the simplest looking one. $80, cool. I have no issues with what I feel, what I see here at that price point. It is truly excellent. The best way that I could describe how this knife feels is if you have experience, let's say a WE Knife Co. They are known for having wonderful execution, fit and finish, and tolerances. Some of their older stuff was reasonably priced. Some of their newer stuff, at least stuff that they came out with this year, a little crazy, but yeah, they are venturing out, more machining time, complex designs. I understand that. But if you guys have ever handled a simple premium WE, they're more simplistic designs, copy and paste stuff almost. That's what this feels like. But those copy and paste simple WE designs, you couldn't really find any of them for under $200. And majority of them now, the cheapest WE that you can find with titanium or a similar set of materials is $250, $275, maybe even $300. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. I'm willing to bet that while I have not used this extensively, their HRC rating on this is 59 to 61, which is exactly what WE and Civivi's is on, pretty much throughout their whole line of materials that they use for their blades, whether it's M390 or 20CV. I know they use them, interchangeably, not a big deal, same shit, doesn't matter. But I'm pretty sure it's the same stuff. There can't be too much variation between how hard this is and how hard WE Knife Co. is hitting their blade material. So with that being said, the pivot on this, the lightness of the blade, the smoothness, it has this tight pivot, ultra buttery smooth WE feeling. And that was one of the things that I really did like about a lot of the older WEs, especially the ones that I had on my channel. Sorry, that was me. I was doing really, really light flipper. But this reminds me of that. It really does. I had a handful of WE knives that their pivots were just absurdly tight. Side to side, up and down, there is no play in any of them. Basically zero pivot movement as well, in this direction. But here, it's the same thing. And that's what's really impressive about this, is that their machining tolerances are right up there with the best of them, essentially, but at half, maybe a third of the price. That's pretty crazy. And maybe I got a super perfect unit. Maybe. I don't know. We can't rule that out, right? But for what I have here in front of me, for what I'm able to actually speak on and share my opinion on, this is awesome. It's great. I highly recommend it if this is a design that you find attractive and you would want something similar in your collection. So let's do a handful of size comparisons so you guys can see what this thing is really all about. Let's do some full size ones. This is a full size Doug Ritter RSK. Here we have a Spyderco PM2. So as you can see, it's a little bit shorter, a little bit more compact. Usable blade length is about the same as the RSK, but you don't really have a forward finger grip. You can rest a little bit on that flipper tab there, but it's not really recommended. You can if you really want to. Really, there's no reason for that. The design doesn't call for a super tactical grip or a super heavy, grip. Let's do a couple other ones here. We have a WE Praxis. I've been meaning to do the re-anodization on this because this thing came out pretty funky looking. Here we have a Civivi Vision FG. So it is pretty darn close to the overall length of a Vision FG, just completely different blade shape. And the last two are going to be a lot more compact. This is a Civivi Elementum. So the 995 is a whole lot longer than both of these other models, and a native 5 Spyderco. So not big, not tiny either. It's definitely compact, but a little bit larger than most compact designs. This is really, as I mentioned before, gent carry. There's a lot of titanium here. You do have steel liners, so there is some difference in materials here. Let's get the weight on this thing. There's actually a little pocket of weight relief, but nothing that would honestly really make much of a difference. 3.5, cool with that, nothing to complain about, especially for what this thing feels like in hands. Feels just right. So let's look at this thing up and close. You have this little, I guess, where everything just meets up, the joint right there. It's not seamless. You can definitely feel it. It's there, but still looks good, feels good, definitely. It's very consistent as well on the other side. On the back, the liners are proud. They are shadow box. You could see them. They're still very well rounded off. Everything's very soft. You could see that there's basically no access to the lock bar, which is a huge flaw in the design. I wouldn't really say the execution or the machining or anything like that. It was a design thing, and very easily this could be corrected if this was just scalloped out just a tiny bit. The little things really do matter when it comes to slimmer knives, a little bit more compact or medium-sized knives, especially when it's shaped as this is. Having a little bit when this is as thin as it is and as short as it is, having a little bit more lock bar access would definitely be a lot better. It's not impossible, it's not that uncomfortable, but after fidgeting with this for a long time, and you're going to want to fidget with it because it's actually pretty good. It's well tuned for the flipper tab. It is well tuned for the reverse flick. There has that little filler right there, or nail nick looking spot right there on the blade. But definitely if there was just a little bit more access to the liner right there. It's thin, but as I mentioned before, it is very well finished for what it is. I don't mind it as much. This isn't really something that you're going to want to be fidgeting with all day long. But if you had really tough callus and you really love the knife, then yeah, you probably could. Not a big deal. But it is something worth mentioning. You have a ceramic detent ball. There's no hardened steel insert because it's in a steel liner right there. So that's pretty cool. Ceramic detent balls. I don't remember. I'm looking inside the pivot. I think these are like the Teflon cage ceramic bearings or something of the sort. Still very smooth, and as I mentioned before, I'm comparing this to one of the simply designed WE knives where the pivot feels tight even though this is a relatively light blade. It's butter. It really is butter, and it feels incredible for what this is. It could be choppy, it could be feeling, I could feel the bearings roll or anything like that, but it's very smooth and consistent. And if I wrench on this side to side, nothing up or down, I can't get nothing out of it. In the pivot, if I really pull on it, maybe I could feel a little bit, but you're asking for it. If you're looking for it, you might find it, but at least for me, it's not really there. You do have a decorative pivot collar, and even though you have Sativian on the blade, I really wish they didn't put it on the blade because this is such a good looking blade. I would have preferred if they just put it on the stupid pivot right there on the pivot on the show side, like a lot of other companies do. I honestly feel like they kind of ruined it a little bit, but it's not really the end of the world. On the other side, you have the blade steel stamp and the model right there. Didn't need to be there, but it is. So if you have the ability to recreate this finish, or maybe you just want a completely different finish entirely, you could of course remove that, but that's how they think it should be done. T8 for the pivot, titanium pivot collars, which is a cool little decorative piece there just for a little pop of color. You do have a butt ton of T6s, which is really unfortunate, but it keeps the design, I suppose, a little bit cleaner looking. Not by much. I'm assuming that's probably the excuse that they would give to using a lot of T6s. You have two T6 for the covers here for the scales, for the pocket clip as well. You do have a very beautifully machined titanium pocket clip. It is actually contoured, it's shaped, it has this hole, everything is rounded off, no sharp edges, nothing is crisp on it. There are multi-$100 pocket knives that have crispy and jagged pocket clips. This is under $100 and they got it right. Like, come on. So that's excellent. I absolutely appreciate that. You do have a little lanyard post right there, a 1/4 length titanium backspacer. So if you want to go ahead and do anodizing in the future, you can add a little pop of color. That'd be pretty cool. As for now, I'm probably going to leave it as is. But they have that there tucked away. There's no weird holes in the overall, design. So it looks pretty darn good. There really isn't much else to talk about. As I mentioned before, the action is excellent. You do have a relatively minimal flipper tab. The jimping on here, it's light. It is really light, but if you get it just right, you'll get used to it. You definitely will. I'm not trying to make an excuse for it, because I've had really shitty flippers with no jimping or really shitty jimping, and this is, it could be better. It definitely could be better, but it could be a lot worse, and they could have not put any jimping at all. So there's that. Even then, as I am not the biggest fan of flipper tabs, I think this still would have been a really cool design if it didn't have a flipper tab at all, and it actually just had just the fuller, and you can go ahead and just, you know, kick it out, reverse flick, or maybe if it did have, you know, a tiny stud or maybe a front flip or something. I don't like back flippers, because when the knife is open, it just kind of sticks out and it looks ugly. But it's still very minimal, and it's not really going to be much in the way. As I mentioned before, you're not going to be doing a lot of like super heavy duty cutting tasks and, you know, hand grips and stuff with this thing. There's no jimping on the spine, which is unfortunate. Even a little bit would have been appreciated, but I suppose if they were really going for the modern gentleman with, you know, upgraded materials and stuff like that, then, you know, maybe, I suppose their excuse is that jimping doesn't fit into the style that they were going for. But that is pretty much it. This thing is not perfectly centered. It was before, but I know I should be able to adjust that. It's a little bit to the show side, the right side. Can't flip the pocket clip, unfortunately, but I know I should be able to actually recenter that later on. But that's pretty much about it. If you guys like this review, go ahead and leave a like down below. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate all your support and your patience, of course. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, because I have plenty more videos and content coming you guys this way. And with that being said, I will be linking this down in the description. Go ahead and check it out, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.